Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned into the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my special guest, John Croke. John has come in, taken time out of his super busy schedule to be a part of our Top Producer series. John is a loan officer with Seacoast Bank. He is on pace to close upwards of $80 million in volume. To put that in perspective for those that are not in the mortgage industry, that's about 8 times the national average. That's 8. So take the national average, times it by 8, and that is the type of production that John is putting out. John, welcome to the Loan Officer Podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your uber busy schedule to be with us.
Dustin, thanks for having me. I'm glad that I was able to reach out to you the other day. It's always good to come in and see you and catch up and chat, and I've been following your podcast for a few weeks now, or I guess you've had it for probably a year at least, right?
Yeah, we're going about 6 months now.
Yeah,
Yep.
So, I mean, you reached out to me on day one, and I was a follower then. I like what you're doing. I think it's great. The content so far has been great, and I look forward to being kind of a part of that. So hopefully all the viewers out there can get some good information.
Yeah, and that is the goal. So, I mean, thank you so much for A, agreeing to come in, and then B, as we were talking about off camera, kind of opening up a little bit. You are a professional loan originator. You've been in the business since 2004.
Correct, yeah.
Currently work at Seacoast Bank.
Yeah.
That's not where you got your start. You started with a larger bank, then you went and you brokered, then you went back to a bank, but as a little bit of a hybrid role, right? Like you were a true bank branch manager where you were in charge of like tellers and auto loans and checking accounts. But on top of that, you still did mortgages, correct?
Correct.
But you were telling me you did mortgages at a slightly elevated level. And correct me if I'm wrong here, you were personally producing more mortgage transactions than 37 other branches combined.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's, the writing on the wall for me has always been mortgages. It's just kind of where I fit in. But, just different things in the economy have made me move and flow, and I'm trying to get in where I fit in, you know what I mean?
100%. That is too short, by the way. Get in where you fit in, fool. It's a little Oakland, California, 1980s rap for anyone who's following along at home. But no, get in where you fit in. Also, get in where you fit in is where were we economically? Like what was happening in 2008 that was forcing certain career moves. We also have things that happen in our personal lives that dictate that we follow a certain path. But what's amazing is that you've always excelled at every opportunity that you have been afforded. And right now you're excelling at a level that is just literally, it's not even 1%. It's like 0.1%. When we close out the year and look at where you're going to rank amongst all loan originators throughout the country, it is mad impressive, like crazy impressive. So kudos to you. And because of that, I want to dive deep into who John Croke is. Okay. Look, you can ice over this interview and you can talk about how you don't miss a phone call and how you relentlessly return calls, which by the way are all good habits of top producers. You're really good at your customer service and you're really good at your technical side of things. You're a great loan officer, right?
Yeah. Well,
okay. Yeah.
There are things that I'm better at, that I actually could be a better loan officer, but it's more, I think I'm a better judge of people. And I think that we'll get into that later about what maybe compels me.
Yeah, well, and I guess what I was trying to get at in a very roundabout way is there's a lot of people who are good at doing mortgages, but there are very few people who are able to achieve what you've achieved. Right. So just being good at mortgages and doing a show on being good at mortgages is not what I'm wanting to do today. Like when I envisioned the Top Producer series, it was more of getting into someone's psyche and their mentality and what drives them. Mm-hmm. Because that's something that obviously can help loan originators, but it can also help people of all walks in life. I mean, it could help someone become a better parent if they're a stay-at-home parent. It could help someone be a better attorney, a better CPA, a better contractor, right? It's so, we want to definitely explore your successes. We want to give the accolades and the congratulatory high fives because they're definitely needed and warranted. And also I use that as a way to position you as a bit of a subject matter expert of, hey, if you want to be successful, listen to this guy because he has figured it out not just once but multiple times throughout his career. Right now it happens to be at Seacoast, but you did it when you were with other employers as well. So obviously it's not employer indicative.
Right.
It's John Croke indicative.
Yeah.
So before we dive deep into that, is there anything for our loan officers who tune in that you would give them words of encouragement if they're saying, how can I go from 10 million to 20 million, 20 to 40, 40 to 80? What would you tell them, maybe from a more technical standpoint, before we start diving deep into the mentality standpoint?
I mean, the technical standpoint would be the basic sales models. I think that everyone has been coached when you become a loan officer, as far as, making your contacts, continuing to follow up on your contacts, seeing your contacts, whether it be realtors, builders, past clients, family, friends, your entire sphere, learning how to really monetize social media. It's such a powerful vision board, if you will, or mechanism that we have in place today, is to really have strong social media presence that can hit so many people. And that will help scale your network. And then, putting important information out there is also very good for people to kind of hit you up on that. Technically, I mean, and it's being disciplined, right? With anything that you want, if you want to achieve success, there are plans. There are people that have done it before that have plans. It's about being disciplined to those plans. You and I share a passion for fitness, right? We do this thing called intermittent fasting, right? It's being disciplined. The results speak for themselves. And many people complain about why they're not in shape or why they look a certain way because they don't have the discipline. Or maybe people complain that they're in credit card debt. Why do you have credit card debt? You're not. It's not a credit card debt problem. It's the fact that you're not disciplined in your spending habits.
So let's jump right into it, right? So from a technical standpoint, discipline to me is more of a psyche, right? You got one great point of technical advice, which is out network, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be successful at anything, out network. Utilize social media and reach out to your circle of influence. Call on your clients. Network. Become likable. Get people to trust you. Therefore, they will refer you or look to you when they need your service, whatever your service may be.
Right.
Once you have done that, let's talk about discipline. Have you always been disciplined?
No. To answer your question, no. So I'm a competitive basketball player. I don't know if you knew that about me. Is I played competitive basketball throughout high school and was going to try to walk on some colleges. And
okay.
I'm 5'7", and so I played point guard, but in high school I was kind of doing everything that high schoolers do and whatever, and my grades were slacking. I didn't even make the team, or not. I made the team, but I got taken off the team. Okay, because of I had to get my grades back up, which is not like me. And then I had and I felt so out of control, in a sense. It was like, this is not like other factors of my life were driving my life.
Okay.
And I really felt the need to self-govern myself, to define what my work ethic is, what I value, and if something I want, I can set a goal and I can achieve that goal. And what's it going to take to achieve that goal? And I always set the bar really, really high, right? So, like you said, $80 million, that's a profound number. Am I going to hit that number? There's a strong chance I'm going to get very close to that number. But if I don't hit that number and I get 70 million, that's a pretty damn good year, right?
You're still in that 0.5%. Yes.
Right. So, so the point is like, I always set my goals high, because if you don't reach your goal, you had a pretty good year. You know what I mean? So
but it took you hitting, I wouldn't call it rock bottom, but you hit a bottom before you had a bit of a wake up call and epiphany, right? You lost the ability to do something that you loved doing because you weren't disciplined enough in the classroom. Correct.
And I think it's seasons in life where you hit bottoms, and I'm a Christian, and I believe in certain things like that where things happen for a reason, and it's you don't necessarily, they don't tap you on the shoulder and say, this is why I'm doing this, and you just got to stay faithful and stay hardworking and make the right choices. And typically there's no easy shortcuts. You have to put in the hard work, you have to put in the discipline, and you have to outwork everybody else. If you want it bad enough, that's what it boils down to, is how bad do you want it? And if you don't want it bad enough, then someone's going to outwork you. And
you learned that at 17.
I mean, being a competitive basketball player.
Yeah.
I mean, the basketball is one of the most competitive sports out there because athletically, I'm not the most athletic guy. I can't slam dunk. You know what I mean? So athletically, I could be beaten. But my competitive spirit and my hard work, I was going to outwork you.
Yeah, no one was going to outgo.
No one was going to outwork
John
me.
Croke. You click that button, or JC John Coleman, he gives me shit. He's like, Dio, sometimes we just have to wind you up. Just go ahead and wind him up and let him go.
Yeah.
I was actually sharing a story very similar with someone today, actually, about things that drive me. And I'm like, I am always going to be out-talented. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to be outworked.
Yeah.
And to hear you say it, I'm like, oh, it's like a mirror. It's a reflection of you learned that you weren't going to be outworked. So you applied that then 4 years of college, first job out of college.
Yeah, I mean, I went and became an overachiever my entire life. So I got 2 full academic scholarships to go to college. They paid me to go to college. I was on the president's list, had a 4.0 GPA with a finance degree. So I did the things necessary and disciplined myself necessary with time management to get where I needed to be. And I had a goal, and you define that goal and how to process that goal. And my goal right now in professional mortgage origination is to be the number one producer.
Okay.
Wherever company I am, I want to be the number one producer, whether that's a male ego thing or what. But I want to like I said, I want to see if I can be number one. And if someone else is going to outwork me, then I'm game on. Let's have the challenge. And I do it in the spirit of fun, in a sense, but still, I'm driven.
Yeah,
I'm driven that way.
So walk me through that. So you graduated high school. You did or did not get to play college basketball?
I did not play college basketball, no.
Does that still kind of chip on the shoulder a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't, it all happened so fast, and I feel like my friends were going out to colleges and partying was introduced, and it's like, then that stuff's like, well, what am I really going to do? Am I going to be in the NBA?
Yeah.
So it's like, and
the reason why I ask that, because I actually, when I'm interviewing and hiring sales professionals, I sometimes look for a chip. Yeah. And I'll ask them, hey, do you have a chip on your shoulder?
Yeah.
Right? We have a guy in this office right here that works for Waterstone Mortgage, absolutely killing it. I mean, killing it. He's like 18 months in the business. He's outproducing 2/3 of his peers that have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years.
That's awesome.
And when we interviewed him, he was a AAA All-Star twice. AAA All-Star twice, baseball player. Mm-hmm. You know what he never did?
Never made it to the big leagues.
Never made it to the big leagues. You know what his friends did?
Made it to the big leagues.
Yeah. You know what type of coin? The minimum.
Oh,
the minimum. Just to make it up there, you're making like $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
So when we interviewed Casey, I asked him about his chip. And I'm like, I can see it. The chip is, you have friends who achieved what you unfortunately weren't able to. And he wasn't able to because he wasn't good, he had an injury.
Yeah.
Right? Life event, couldn't control.
Right.
I said, but you can use that as your motivator, that you're going to out-earn every one of those friends who made it to the big show. Maybe they made it to the big show and they lasted 3 years, 4 years. They made $1 million a year for 4 years. They made $4 million.
Yeah.
You could come as a mortgage loan originator, make a couple $100,000 a year, $400,000 a year. You do $400,000 a year for 5-6 years. You've now out-earned your buddies.
Yeah.
Right. So you when you mentioned not playing college basketball, I was just curious if there's a chip, because I'm actually curious. Do you have a chip that maybe drives you? Like what is it? Because wanting to be number one, that's a huge pill to swallow for many folks. Is there a way that you either make it fun or like if you listen or watch the miniseries on Michael Jordan on
Sure.
ESPN, Jordan constantly almost made up, like bullshitted his way into like a competitive confrontation.
Fuel.
Yeah, just to fuel his fire.
Yeah.
Do you find any of that works for you?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What are some of the tactics that you're using?
I love that series. I mean, that series is like, if anyone is a former competitive athlete, I grew up in the 90s watching Jordan. He was my favorite player. And I've read his books, and the competitiveness is something that I try to emulate. and it's like a sickness almost. It's like, because even they say like it was too much, and sometimes it comes on as too much, but it's like I want to win so bad, because it's almost like maybe
do you want to win so bad, or do you want to not lose?
Yeah.
Talk about that for us.
Yeah. So I'll bring this back to talk about the chip.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of gets into my life. So I went to a private school when I was younger in Stuart, Florida.
Okay.
Comparable like a Lake Highland or whatever. I didn't go there because my parents were rich. I went there because my mom taught.
Okay.
Okay. And there was a discount. So, everybody knew that. But I was a basketball player and everything.
By the way, for those that are listening outside of the Central Florida area, Lake Highland is a private school within the greater Orlando area. Actually, it's in Orlando proper, I believe. And it's where professional athletes send their children, right?
Yeah.
It's
a who's who.
It is a who's who. So John's kind of painting the picture that he grew up in Stuart, Florida, which is just north of Jupiter, which is just north of West Palm Beach, which is just north of Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Halfway between Fort Lauderdale and Orlando is Stuart, Florida, and he went to one of these who's who school, not because your parents could afford it, but because you got a discount. Your mom was a teacher there.
That's correct.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that now why I got a great value in the education and networking, actually, right? Still to this day, it created a chip. It created a wealth inferiority complex.
Okay.
A social class warfare, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a teacher. My dad worked for UPS. Very blue collar family. We had everything we needed.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing I regret. But my classmates were very wealthy, and going to their houses for parties and stuff like that. And my mom would compare. You know what I mean? It's something I struggle with when in life, but it was like, they have this and we don't. So it created this chip on my shoulder to achieve success.
And you deem success financially.
In that regards, yeah. And that's what I'm struggling with now in my life, is like, once you get to that plateau of when you have financial success and you realize, well,
it's not the end all be all.
There's not the end all be all. There's so much more to life. But that's what drives me in a sales environment where so often the monetary reward, production equals dollars equals success, and hence why we're here today to some respect is to interview my mortgage production.
Yeah. So you found your chip. Now, some of us don't have to find it. Some of us, and this guy can raise his hand, which, by the way, if you're listening, I just raised my hand. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see me. Hey. But yeah, I was able to not need to find it. I always had it. And my chip is very similar to your chip.
Yeah.
Like, very similar. Friends sending me pictures of them wearing my clothes, hanging out with your basketball fan from the 90s, so John Stark and Patrick Ewing at Atlantis in Bahamas. My freaking structure shirt was there, but I wasn't there. My parents, that wasn't how we rolled, but that was how they rolled.
Yeah.
My chip was set. Some people, I think the takeaway would be, if you don't have a chip that is as apparent as it is in John and I, find one, right? Find one. Even if you have to make it up, because that chip may be what helps you get through a shitty day. Like sometimes the tasks that we have to do to become successful aren't fun.
Yeah.
Right? Not eating sweets is not fun, but you love the result.
Right.
Going on a 5-mile run might not be fun in 100% humidity, but you love the result.
Right.
Making 100 cold calls is not fun. You love the result, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So some days we need to find a chip. If you're not as fortunate or unfortunate as John and I to have one just inherently placed on your shoulder, then find one and then use it to get through those days so that you can achieve the ultimate success. Thanks for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah, little get into the little personal here with you on the podcast.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's honestly what I'm trying to do with the Top Producer series, is talk less about task, less about what it takes to be a good technician, more about the insides, right? Once we can figure out the insides, the outsides kind of take care of themselves. Being driven, you and I were talking about this off camera, and I wanted to bring it back to camera. Being driven to be successful, or are you driven not to fail?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I bringing it talking about Jordan. I read in his book Rare Air a long time ago, and he said it's my fear of failure that fuels me. And so I lived through 2008 as a mortgage broker, and
Fun times?
scary.
For those that were maybe born in years like 1997, years like 2000, 2005 even, who don't know what 2008 was like, it was the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. So when we joke about I lived through 2008, not really joking. It wasn't a fun time.
Yeah. And I was, commission only, mortgage broker. All of the secondary lenders that we were selling to or brokering to, they all closed up or went out of business in a matter of like 14 business days, right? So, here I am, college educated. I have a finance degree. I have experience selling and working in banks and everything, and nobody's hiring. And I'm living off X amount of savings. I'm calculating how many months is my burn rate here, And I tell you, that is a big chip, because what fuels me now is it's almost like it's an accumulation of like I need to earn as much now and accumulate. So if another crisis comes,
You're prepared.
I'm prepared for Armageddon.
Yeah.
So it's like, when is the other shoe going to drop? Maybe it never does. But I'll tell you who's going to be prepared that's how I live my life conservatively. But it also is another secondary driving factor. That's like, this is like, I gotta keep chasing the nightmare of 2008. Like, it's going to come. It haunts me. Like, no, make 10 more calls. You just never know when it's going to stop.
No, I love that. It's very much carpe diem for your career. It is seize the day, seize the moment. YOLO almost, right?
Yeah, make hay while the sun shines, right?
Yeah. So you're using that to motivate you, like on top of everything else, right? On top of growing up competitive, right? Growing up, as you said, a 5'7" point guard playing competitive basketball. Height alone. And lack of athletic ability. I don't know this. You told me your lack of athletic. I would guess you're probably more athletic than most people, including myself. But throughout your life, you have found instances where you weren't necessarily the most gifted, but you used that to further work hard or to fuel your fire or to drive through so that you could find the ultimate success that you're looking for.
There's a meme out there, and I think sums it up perfectly, and I would assign it to myself, as I think it says, hard work beats talent every day, or when hard work beats talent when talent doesn't want to work hard.
Yes, I think that's exactly what it says.
Yeah.
There's definitely some things where talent would just win, right? If we're running a race, I can't outwork you.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to do a distance race, possibly I could,
right?
Because I can train longer, harder, more efficiently, more consistently. But if it's just a sprint, 100-yard sprint, more times than not, the more talented person is definitely going to beat me or you or most people in something like that. But no, that's a fantastic quote that I believe is now on a meme floating around. You could Google it right now if you needed to. How about this? You're a dad.
Yep.
What are one or two things that you're teaching your son, either A, because it wasn't taught to you? Your parents did a great job of teaching you so many life lessons, but there are a couple things that you, in hindsight as an adult, wish they would have taught you. Or B, you're teaching your son because it was taught to you at an early age and you're so grateful that it was. What are those life lessons that you're passing along that maybe you'd benefit one of our viewers to hear?
Yeah. It's such a common subject, right? Because so many people, there's a big financial literacy challenge in our country, right? And I used to do some stuff with Dave Ramsey after his radio show, and he preaches a lot about financial literacy, and it's an epiphany for most people. So, back to my parents, blue collar, hardworking, they paid their bills, had good credit, we had stuff, but I was never taught investments, right? They it's like rich dad, poor dad, right? So they did the basic investments with their employers, and I don't know if they did anything on the side, but they did what they thought was right and what they had resources to do. They never necessarily educated themselves on other avenues of investing. So things that I'm doing with my son, who happens to be a very intelligent human being, he's 145 IQ and in the IB program at Glenridge, and
nice. That's fantastic. Proud dad moment right there.
A wizard.
Yeah.
The kid, he picks it up. He's a very intelligent kid. So So when I drive around town and we were stopped at a red light, I say, there's a commercial building right there. I said, that building has tenants. Those tenants are paying rent to an individual company that owns that building. That company pays a commercial mortgage. And that commercial mortgage pays interest to a bank. And I'm just kind of teaching him about how the world works as regard to income producing real estate.
And that's something that wasn't being taught to you, not because your parents weren't trying to be better parents. They just didn't know it themselves.
They weren't. They're not in that industry.
Yeah.
I mean, they were working what they were working, having benefit, trying to raise 3 children.
One of those being you, which is really trying to raise 5 children. But
I was a good one, believe it or not. So, being in the real estate finance industry, you deal with all sorts of things from first-time home buyers who are nervous and excited, and they're such an emotional transaction for them, to the savvy investor who's got 5 or 6 homes and duplexes, and we're trying to cash flow and look on rate of returns and things like that. So we're all over the place with our knowledge and gearing towards intellect to different types of our clients. So when I see the value in income producing real estate as an investor myself, right? So I feel like something that would be sustainable for him to own some real estate himself one day is to learn about that and how that works. So he knows that at a young age, so he can understand that conceptually. Regardless of what he does, when he does as a career, he wants to be a sports broadcaster, and he wants to go to Syracuse because it's got the #1 sports broadcasting school, and he's got it all planned out. And get an internship at ESPN. I said, man,
that's going from Syracuse, New York, just to Connecticut.
Yeah,
nice.
That's exactly because he said it's close, so I can do the intern. I mean, Bob Costas went to Syracuse, so
good for him.
I mean, he's got it. So hopefully he's a chip off the old block with the drive factor.
Yeah.
Sets his goals and achieves them. So he's certainly got the intelligence.
I always wanted to be a sports announcer. Instead, I ended up becoming a podcast host. But, we always can't achieve the highest goals that we set out for ourselves.
It's a close
right?
second, I'm sure.
It's
Dustin.
a close second. Yep. Yeah. No, that is awesome. How about this, John? How about career advice to yourself? If you go back to 2004 and you're getting started in the mortgage business, what do you wish someone would have shared with you early on in your career to maybe help you achieve certain career goals that took longer to achieve?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think, the discipline can come in waves, if you will, and you have to, and it can also be overwhelming. You know what I mean? It can completely obsess you to the point to where other areas of your life suffer because of it. And you have to, I guess, find the balance from an overall life perspective and do things. But I think the #1 piece of advice that I would give myself is always, always, always take care of the client. Regardless if you do a loan or not, I think people will genuinely feel that you care for their well-being, you're caring for their financial future, and that in turn will lead to the referrals that you're looking for to help scale your business. Ultimately, we're all selling the same stuff here, right? I'm selling a 30-year mortgage. The guy 2 offices down is selling a 30-year mortgage. Maybe my rate's lower, maybe their rate's lower. Regardless, it's about people, and it's a people business here that we're doing, and it's about helping people. And if I can use my talents and my abilities and my drive to help people and really care about their well-being. Just this morning, I talked a guy out of a $500,000 mortgage.
Good for you.
I said, we talked about it. I said, a $3,000 nut a month is a big nut. You know what I mean? I said, I could put you in a 15-year at 2.25. You go buy something for $300,000, and you could walk your daughter to high school and know, hey, I'm free and clear. He's like, yeah, that sounds really good. I said, I know it does.
Yeah.
I said, you don't want. We're in a cyclical type of world here, and that's a lot of pressure.
Well, I like that. It's very much, it's cliche to say, but it's so true. Basically, put others first and you'll never be last.
Yeah.
Do the right thing always, and the commission checks will follow.
They will. And I really, even this year, I've been, I'm a human being, but I try to be a Christian, and I try to obviously believe, and I just said, it's about helping people. If I'm here to be some kind of instrument or purpose, it's not about commission checks. It's not about $80 million. It's about helping people and about serving their needs and what their needs are.
Well, and I've heard you use this term multiple times in the 3 to 4 years that we've known each other, which is, I helped this many families this year, right? You and I are using $80 million because it's a really cool number and it's big and it's jazzy. But in order to fund $80 million in home loans, you had to have helped 250 families.
Yeah.
Finance the largest asset they're going to own, and more importantly, the biggest vehicle they have to generate wealth, right? And that's really what you're doing, which is phenomenal, right? Yeah. It's rewarding financially, it's rewarding for many emotionally, but let's not hide from the fact that you are helping change lives.
100%.
And really thank you for that, right? I mean, on behalf of all of us in the community that you serve, which I'm a part of that community you serve, thank you for the job that you're doing and for always taking a highly disciplined, extremely driven approach to helping others, because that's what you do.
I mean, I bring it full circle. I went to a client's house for a pool party, for his daughter's pool party. My son was playing with his daughter, and he renovated this house and he got himself into a lot of credit card debt doing it. It's a jumbo deal. It was tough. His scores dropped. I had to do a cash out refi to like a non-QM lender to just get the deal done.
So for those of us that are not proficient in the mortgage industry, just know lots of paperwork, lots of red tape.
Higher rates at first. Yeah. And he was very nervous. I said, look, your next step may be a bankruptcy attorney.
Yeah.
I said, look, I need you to trust me. This is what I do. I need you to trust me. I need you to do exactly what I tell you to do for the next 6 months. I need you to basically keep $100 on your cut. Like, this is going to make your score go from this to 800, and then we're going to refi it again. You're going to hit the close cost, but I'm going to get you back into a rate. Did everything. He worked out exactly how it did. Refinanced him back into a normal rate. And it full circle for me is that he, had a few cocktails or whatever, but pulled me aside and almost very with tears.
Yeah.
Just he said, you are welcome at my house, and for what you did for me.
Yeah.
You saved my family. Like, we were probably going to bankruptcy, divorce, fights, and he said, by far, he's like, I've done a lot of mortgages, I've owned a lot of homes, and he's like, the way you handled my situation and cared for me was by far the best. You're the best I've ever dealt with.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like a human, right? You treated him like a human.
Like a human.
Yep.
You get involved with these people's stories. And another thing that's, part of the process is you absorb their stresses and you try to provide solutions for those stresses. Maybe they're not looking at it every day. They don't have the financial intelligence to look at what their household is and how they're managing it financially. And we come in with a strategy looking at a loan that works, or debt consolidation, or a cash out to renovate, or go from a 30 to a 15 and keep the payments the same, and then you invest the difference. I mean, just providing some intelligence there really goes a long way. And I think people, it's not about being a number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, 100%. So getting the hand signals from JC behind the camera that we're running out of time to wrap it up. He's giving me this. Any parting shots for whether it's other loan officers, other parents, maybe it's our college kids that are tuning in and they're going to be career professionals just in a year or two themselves. Any last minute words of advice that you'd want to give? John Croke, the dad, John Croke, the driven, successful business professional, John Croke, the loan officer at Seacoast Bank.
So I'm a firm believer in, if there's something that you want to achieve or you want to accomplish, that the sky's the limit. There is nothing that can hold you back. If you want to be a professional basketball player, maybe you got to work 200 times harder. And I gave that up, but maybe I could have been if I really, 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 really worked. But I didn't.
And by professional, everyone thinks NBA. It didn't have to be NBA.
I could have been
in Europe. You could have been in Europe. You could have been in Australia.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess the point is device is like, whatever, if you want to be successful and whatever you define success as, you have to educate yourself on what that takes, create a strategy, be disciplined enough to follow that strategy, and then really make that your lifestyle. You have to live it. You have to breathe the discipline, and the results will happen.
It sounds cliche, but John promises, and I agree, it works.
It does.
It works. Listen, I'm Dio. He's the other JC, John Croke. John, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, you can call me on my cell phone.
You can call me on my cell phone. Go ahead.
321-689-4430. I have all social media. Just look Facebook, Instagram, John Croke, LinkedIn. Hopefully be posting some of this stuff later as well. And yeah, that's the best way.
Perfect. I'm Dio. He's John Croke. This is the Loan Officer Podcast, and we are out. Deuces.